And welcome back to another episode. Got 4 movies to talk about tonight. And yes, I'm still working on pacing myself so I don't wind myself. Especially tonight. Mid-Michigan the past week has just been a swamp. More so than usual. So the air is very thick and very wet. My shirt's already clinging to me. I suppose that's kind of fitting too, because I usually find sort of a inadvertent theme throughout the movies I watch on Saturdays. And for some reason, last Saturday it was like watery cliffs. Like that just kept being the thing. Although the 4th one didn't really have cliffs, but did have plenty of water. So my first movie of the night was a new one from this year. I was actually surprised because I didn't think it was available to stream for me, but it was Primate, which is the newest movie from Johannes Roberts, who I've largely enjoyed his career. He never really makes anything great, but I've been entertained by basically everything I've seen from him. The only exception being there's one he did called Cold Storage, and that's like the oldest movie of his that I've seen. That one I didn't... No, not Cold Storage. That's a newer one. Storage 24 or something like that. Not a very good movie, save for a couple of scenes. But his other stuff, The Other Side of the Door, Welcome to Raccoon City, 47 Meters Down movies, those have been really entertaining, even if they're not necessarily good. And so with this one, he was kind of doing an interesting thing and bringing back kind of a long-missed subgenre. Because for years now, it kind of seems like animal attack movies have kind of been coming back into fashion. Obviously, shark ones, most common. Because, he even did a few of them himself, obviously, with the 47 Meters flicks. And this year we got, there's the hippo movie that's out. There's kind of a large spider in the forest one. But what he decided to bring back was ape attack flicks. Which, ape movies for horror, they were kind of a bit bigger back in the 40s and 50s, because getting an ape costume is pretty cheap. So if you're just making a cheap crap horror movie, it's a pretty easy thing to do. There were even things like the Universal had the Jungle Woman series, where she was a woman that became an ape. Or even kind of weird stuff where it's not really ape attack, but what was it, Robot Monster? Where it's an alien monster, but half of the costume is just an ape costume, And so that they sort of had that lineage. Largely went away. And then I recall a few, in the 80s, there was Shakma and Link, which Link was probably the high standard of ape attack movies. And then probably the last one I can kind of really remember as a notable movie, it wasn't even apes, it was monkeys. It was Monkey Shines. Yeah, so entire generations basically have grown up without proper ape attack horror movies. So having this one come back, it's kind of neat. And essentially the movie is just Cujo with a chimp in Hawaii. And there's some little alterations, so instead of it being a mom and her kid, it's a gaggle of college-age girls. And some guys and a little sister. And instead of hiding in a car, they're mostly hiding in a pool, because for one, being rabid, the chimp doesn't like water and can't swim anyway. And gotta give some good points to the movie. It's very graphically violent. Enjoy that. In fact, we were taking kind of bids on what would be the different methods the chimp would off people. And mine was the first one on there, so very proud of that. And it's a really short movie too, which God bless it, because I know you guys have probably gotten tired of hearing me saying different movies I'm watching where they're running too long. like where they'd be better if they were 10, 15, 20 minutes shorter. And this one, thankfully, doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like, with credits, it's like 90 minutes even. So, you know, it is very much appreciated. That being said, though, it is not a very deep movie. Characters aren't very, you know, character personalities aren't all that unique. Dialogue isn't all that nuanced. There aren't even any, like, really major twists. Chimp gets rabies. Chimp hurts people. People fight back. That is the movie. They don't even attempt to explain, like, you know where the chimp gets the rabies. He gets it from a mongoose. But how a rabies-infested mongoose ended up on Hawaii, which is known for not having rabies, like, that's never addressed. They just don't bother with it. So yeah, so it's very cut and dry, it's very simple, it's very straightforward. And like most of the director's movies, it's very entertaining. But I'd say, for one, it's not his best. It's probably his most overall professional, because he's done this long enough now. He's gotten really good at, you know, accomplishing whatever it is he sets out to do. And I mean, most of the cast is game. I haven't seen most of the actresses in it in anything else. I think I've seen one of them in something outside, but I don't remember what. But they all do a good job with pretty bland, generic characters. One of the more unique touches is the main girl's dad is he's deaf, which they play up a couple times to kind of frustrating effect, because, you know, the chimp will be doing something and he doesn't know. Yeah, let's go down that way. So they have some fun with that as well. But yeah, it's not a movie you can really get into deep interpretations about. And so, yeah. Like I said, it's kind of hard to come up with a lot to say about it. Like, you know exactly what you're getting in for right on, you know, it's like, hey, movie about killer chimp. Alright, that's what you got. And it's not even particularly scary. Like I said, it is very, very gory. But I think that was something, I kind of had this weird, like, distinction that it almost felt like something was missing. And obviously, you know, to a certain extent, you can say that within the storyline, because it doesn't have, you know, like I said, it doesn't have deep character arcs or anything like that. But since it's kind of a very straightforward, kind of trashy idea, it's weird that the movie, outside of gore, is fairly restrained. Like, there's no nudity, there's no sex, there's nothing like that. And it's not like the movie isn't objectifying people. Like, your main characters are a bunch of soaking wet college-age girls. But yeah, there's kind of like, you know, for a lot of modern horror movies, yeah, it's like completely sexless. You know, and it's not necessary to be, but I think that becomes all the more noticeable when you're watching something that's that kind of direct and trashy. Because, yeah, you're watching a movie where a chimpanzee is ripping people's faces off. And that's the entertainment value. So it's weird that, you know, like, you don't ever even get a boob. So yeah, I found that a little more lacking, obviously, than some other movies. But it is an entertaining flick. So I definitely recommend it. As far as stuff I've seen from this year, that and Obsession are probably the two best. Neither of them, like I said, are like all-timers for me. But they're good entertainment. And so, you know, I'd recommend it. I'd probably even add it to my own collection at some point, pending it were cheap enough. Like, it's not something I'd buy at full price, but, you know, when there's like a Halloween sale, I'm like, hey, Blu-ray's $10. Okay, sure. Because I could even see myself revisiting it, just not often. And so, yeah, that one kind of gives, like, sort of like the general, just like, okay entertainment recommendation. It ain't gonna change your world, but if you want to get some, you know, some ews and ahs watching something kind of grim and, you know, and violent and simple, it's a good time to be had. Because overall everything is pretty much decent. Acting is decent, production is decent, soundtrack is actually remarkably good and very John Carpenter-esque. Just like I said though, not a terribly original movie by any means, but it will be novel for a lot of younger people who haven't necessarily seen stuff like Link or Shakma or, you know, old gorilla movies or things like that. So, moving on from there though, I was feeling like I needed a little bit something more classy. And so I turned on The Uninvited from 1944. It's one that I got during the Criterion sale, and I could not remember if I had seen it before or not. I still can't totally remember if I had seen it before or not. I think I may have just seen like portions of it. And historically, the movie has kind of a reputation as its import is that it came out at a time when most supernatural films, like a lot of horror movies, it was either like a monster, like Universal Monsters, or if it was dealing with spiritualism, you know, ghosts would always be like, it would always be like a scam. It was something that was explainable. So that would happen in like, you know, comedies and stuff like that. And so this was one of the first movies to actually like treat ghosts seriously. And so it took this very, it kind of took the approach of like being, I guess you'd say, yeah, more sincere and more, just more reflective about ghosts as opposed to, you know, just, oh, that's silly. Takes it, you know, it takes the whole thing completely head on. And it has a lot of like the classic things that you would then expect of haunted house movies, seances, you know, people becoming like possessed of strange tendencies, you know, digging into the history of a place, forgotten crimes, all that stuff. The movie though, the plot line takes place, they actually based the movie in the 30s so they could kind of dodge all the war stuff that was going on, because I mean 44 was not a happy time. So they have, it's a brother and sister pair vacationing, and they find this just huge seaside manor. They kind of get a little obsessed with it, especially the sister. Decide, you know what, they're going to move out of the city, you know, move away from London, buy this place, restore it, live life there. And they get some pushback at first, especially from the granddaughter of the guy that owns the place, because she doesn't want anyone taking the home. Although she eventually comes around and ends up being like the love interest for the main guy. But like the grandfather doesn't want her coming around the house because something will be out to get her. You know, and spooky occurrences happen here and there. Breezes, smells. There's a art studio upstairs that like has this kind of oppressive feeling to it. And as things go on, yeah, it does start to cause kind of a threat to the granddaughter. And so this traces back. They think that the house is being haunted by her mother. And there's this whole story of like, you know, her mother went off a cliff. There were things involving like the family servant who was, they keep calling her Spanish gypsy, which if you're easily offended, I guess, look, you're going to hear the gypsy word a lot in it. It was the 40s. You'll have to deal. Yeah, so some old family mystery shenanigans and all that. The movie also picked up kind of a weird reputation because there's a female character in it who gives a lot of people like coded lesbian vibes. She was seemingly in love with the girl's mother, and still sort of like serves her spirit. She's a very weird lady on top of it. So I guess there's even this popular letter from like a religious leader who thought that the movie might be attracting strange crowds in the middle of the night, you know. And I don't think what they were doing was intentional. She's just supposed to be a strange character, but you know, you do get some weird kind of vibes off of her for sure. But the movie though, so if you're coming at it from, you watched a lot of haunting films, ghost movies in general, a lot of the beats that you catch are going to be very familiar. Because like I said, this is kind of credited with like sort of establishing proper haunted house movies as a thing. So you'll recognize a lot when watching it. But so, a lot of it comes down to how well it's done, how well it's written, how well it's filmed. And thankfully for its time, it's really well done. Dialogue is by and large pretty smart. We'll stick on this side. Yeah, dialogue is overall very, very smart. Cinematography is really good. The sets are excellent. Cast largely does a good job. One thing that was bugging me when watching it, there's a local doctor, and the guy was driving me nuts because I could tell, like, I knew who it was, and it was Alan Napier, who was Alfred in the '66 Batman. Once I saw him, once I knew that, like, yes, okay, that's it. This does lead down kind of a depressing rabbit hole, though. The main love interest, the granddaughter, is played by... I'm blanking on her name. It's something Gale. And she was, like, up and coming. This was only, like, her second or third movie. And she's this kind of, like, very cute, very kind of typically 40s, like, actress type. But apparently in real life, she was very shy, very nervous, lots of issues. And this kind of amounted to something in that while she was making that, she developed kind of a bad habit for fighting off her nerves by drinking. And this kind of haunted her for years and years and kept growing as a problem until you got to the point when she was like 36, she had just destroyed her liver, looked much older than she was. Yeah, she could never get around it. She was just always this kind of nervous wreck of a person who probably shouldn't have gotten into acting, but yeah, she was sort of pressured into it from her family and other outside sources, and yeah, it didn't work out well for her, unfortunately. So, yeah, like I said, you get down a little bit of a sad rabbit hole there. But going back to the movie, yeah, it's a really solid movie. It doesn't have a ton of scares. But what is there, it's not really scary to an audience now. But it's well done. For some from the 40s, like, I can't really think of any movie from the 40s that I would say is scary. Just because the way things got delivered, the way things were presented, the ideas that were on hand, they're just, they're not as scary as the stuff you'd see now. That being said, it was really well done. And it's obviously an important movie, given kind of how it shaped the genre. And you get into that debate on occasion. If something is innovative and historically important, is it an automatic, like, best of all time? Or how much do you actually put into its presentation and its quality overall, for more objective qualities. Because you have the things of, like, yeah, you can judge, like, how well it was filmed, how well it was edited, And I think overall the quality of the movie is good enough that I think I'd declare it as, still an all-timer. It's something where, like, as I'm, making that list, depending on the size of it one day, it could get cut off. Yeah, but it's a really excellent film. It's good for, like, you can have a spooky movie, but, it's not gory. It's not overbearing. It's not grim or depressing. You know, it's just a good time. You know, well-written characters. It's really well paced, despite the fact I'm kind of surprised for a movie from the 40s to be, I think it's 100 minutes. Because usually most horror movies back in the day, they are quick. They're in and out. I mean, a lot of people, you know, forget that, like, some of the Universal monster classics, like Frankenstein and stuff, will be 60-some, 70-some minutes, and then they're just done. And so seeing something that's this long and doesn't really lose its effectiveness at all, it keeps you engrossed. That's kind of a hallmark of, like, yeah, this is a good movie. It's longer than it probably needs to be, and it's still good. And so, for the first time since our first episode, yeah, we have another, like, all-timer. So we can click that one in the list right next to The Keep. So, yeah, that's one I definitely recommend that people search out, especially over the next couple of months as we get closer and closer to spooky time. And so, after that, I moved on to one I've seen a multitude of times, but I have a new edition, because it keeps happening due to my Vinegar Syndrome subscription. The Lady in White, which is from, I can't remember if it was from 1988 or 89. And it was directed by Frank LaLoggia, who only did a few other movies in his career. Before this one, he had done one in the early 80s called Fear No Evil, which I will recommend to anyone for, like, kind of a so bad it's good horror movie. Because Fear No Evil is, it is endlessly quotable. It's absolutely hilarious. I adore it. In the case of Lady in White, though, what you got is something, it's probably the closest we have in the horror genre to being like a Christmas story. It's based on a little kid played by Lucas Haas. I think it's his first role, if not his first, it's, you know, very early in his career. He's growing up in, I forget the year, I think it's the 1960s. New York, you know, the state of New York, rural community. Well, it's actually supposed to be Rochester, I think. I think it's where it's filmed too, but I forget, they have a fictional name for the town. And it stretches, the storyline stretches a long time. It starts on Halloween and goes well past, well, I'm pretty certain it goes past Christmas. The timeline later on gets a little weird because it's still cold and there's still the occasional bit of snow. They mentioned that they haven't gotten much snow. But the Christmas decorations have disappeared by that point, so I'd say it at least goes into the new year. Let's head down this way. But yeah, the storyline of it, little kid on Halloween, you know, you just kind of get like your nostalgia dump early on. You get to see the town, the costumes, kids playing, having fun, get introduced to the town and the kid's family and all that. On the night of Halloween, though, a couple of his classmates pull a trick on him, and he ends up getting locked in the coat closet off of his classroom. Spends all of Halloween night in there, and while he's there, he ends up seeing a little ghost girl. And she's like reenacting a night when she was murdered. Not long after that, somebody in a mask shows up in that closet looking for something, notices the kid, tries to choke the life out of him. He ends up living. But this ends up setting off this like multi-month quest of his, trying to fit, you know, he sees the girl more and more. He's trying to help her find peace in the afterlife, trying to figure out who it was that attacked him and has been attacking kids for years. And then a big subplot of the movie that involves his dad is that the janitor of the school is an African-American man, and being the 60s, yeah, there's some racial issues for sure. And so he's an easy target to blame all the strangulations on, because, you know, he had the means, he had the access, and you just pin it on the black guy. Like, that's what the one sheriff even says. It's just like, yeah, he's black, he's there, it's easy. But the kid's dad does not believe that at all. Like, throughout the movie, you kind of see him struggle with the fact that he obviously kind of believes in civil rights, even if he's not really actively doing much about it. And so he occasionally, like, steps in and tries to help that guy's family, help out his wife on occasion. And that's kind of the main storyline for the dad. And it's sad because, so there's like 3 edits of the movie, and a lot of that stuff, if I recall, gets missed in some of the shorter cuts. And it's a shame because, like, some of the best scenes in the movie are from that plot line. Especially because it's weird, the actor playing the dad is Alex Rocco, who you may not recognize the name, but, like, you see the guy, you hear his voice, you know him, you know, you've seen stuff with him. Yeah, and he's like the best performer in the whole movie, because a lot of other people, since it's a very nostalgic movie, they're kind of overdoing it. He keeps a really good, firm handle on stuff, though. So yeah, he's probably the best performer in the film. And so yeah, giving him these really good scenes too, it's nice to watch. But yeah, like I said, the storyline keeps kind of evolving. So, you know, it's kind of this murder mystery. There's the little ghost girl, but then there's also questions of how she ties into the legend of the Lady in White, which is this ghost lady who haunts the cliffs. And despite her being the title character of the film, you don't see her a lot, so don't be like dead set on her. This isn't like the Woman in Black. Yeah. Lady in White only shows up a couple of times. But yeah, it's, like I said, it kind of has like a Christmas Story vibe, in that it's very nostalgic, it's very corny, and it walks a weird balance, because it is very kid friendly overall, so long as you're not the type of parent who minds, you know, a movie where the kids are under threat of being strangled to death, or some of them are strangled to death, you know, or a kids movie that, you know, openly talks about old-timey racism. And drops a few slurs in there as well. So it's a very big picture, and the first time I ever saw it, I did not like it. I think I saw the theatrical cut originally. It was an old DVD I had. I may be wrong, but like I said, I think it was the theatrical cut, and I didn't like it. It was too corny. I just could not get into it. And so I always recommend that if you do watch it, you've got to go for those longer cuts. Because I think there's the director's cut and the pre-release cut, I think are the 2 lengthier ones. Though sometimes, I think the pre-release cut is sometimes called the extended, so it has different names. But yeah, I think that longest cut is 124 minutes, and that's the one you want, because it kind of reminds me. It reminds me of the director's cut of the first Daredevil movie, the Ben Affleck one. The extended cuts don't get rid of the problems with the film, but they give you more quality moments that kind of help balance out and wash away the problems. So yeah, that's why you should definitely go for, you know, those longer versions. And thankfully, modern home video releases, that's like the main one they want you to watch. They give you the theatrical is just like a give me. But yeah, the movie as a whole, like I said, I struggled with it before, but I've really kind of fallen into liking it more and more as time goes on, because it's so expansive and it's so big. You know, you have this movie that's like, you know, coming of age story, kind of old-timey nostalgia porn, Italian family drama, murder mystery, ghost movie, you know, holiday movie. It's a lot of everything all at once. And so, like, when you watch those longer cuts, by the time you get to the end, like, you know, it's almost more like you know, went through a good book. But you just did it in, like, a little over 2 hours. And so, this one is also going to get that special mark of approval. This is going to be the second all-timer essential for this episode. And I actually think would have an easier time of staying in there than even the Uninvited would, because of what a range it has, how much stuff it covers, how unique it is, despite flaws in acting, flaws in tonality and corniness. But yeah, it really, really works as a movie. And there's some genuinely affecting, emotionally touching moments in the film. And like I said, all the more if you watch that longer version. Yeah, because I won't even break any, bust out any spoilers. One of my favorite parts, though, the reaction of the killer once their identity is revealed is so fucking weird, and I adore it. I forget about it every time, though, so when I see it again, it hits me, like that first time. It's supposed to be scary, and it almost is, but it's funny at the same time. But that's sort of like, yeah, that's the trick with the movie. It's a little bit all over the place, but it works. And so yeah, this one too I recommend to anybody. And it is kind of interesting where you can watch it, because obviously starting on Halloween night, yeah, you could make it a Halloween night movie, or you can kind of wait, because since it stretches into Christmas and all that, and you just kind of watch it somewhere in the back end of the year, and just taking a really nice, really big, expansive ghost story that was made on like a shoestring budget, but really works. I will point out one of the things I don't like, though, and I had forgotten it. So the movie has narration from a in the 80s, modern day adult version of the main character. And so they kind of started off like a framing device. He's going back home to his town, goes to the graveyard, and he narrates the film, but his narration it almost seems to get put on the back burner as they go. And strangely enough, like, by the end, he's just, they don't go back to it. It's really, really weird to do that. Basically set up a framing device, but then never close off the frame. But I think the ending's good enough as is, that they didn't really need to do that, but I almost think it'd be easy, better if they just cut the narration. But I understand kind of thing to do it. It's a nostalgia story, and it helps kind of thread stuff together as you jump a few weeks at a time in the storyline. Yeah, very good movie. Another all-timer. So once again, up there with Uninvited and The Keep. So we've actually got a little bit of a decent start to our list going. And then the fourth and final movie for the night. I had no idea what to watch, but like I had plenty of time. I was wired for sound. I'd already gone for a walk too, and it was a muggy, swampy night like this. I turned on. I had a set of, I think it's Forgotten Gialli Volume 9, and on it is a movie called Madness. And I picked that one out of the three on there because it was directed by Bruno Mattei. And if you're like a bad movie lover, like you're gonna know his work. Most of his stuff was made in conjunction with Claudio Fragasso. And whether it be both of them together or apart, they made movies like Strike Commando, Troll 2, Night Slasher, oh god, whatever ones. I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, but they had some pretty legendary output. Oh, well, hell, Zombie 3, that thing, hilarious. Yeah, they make some great bad movies. Oh, Robo War, another one. So yeah, I mean, their stuff is legendarily like funny bad. Unfortunately, this is mid-90s. They really didn't work together as much anymore. So this one is just Bruno. He has a different writer. And some of those, you get some of those spots of so bad it's good fun in there. A little bit. But not enough to make up for for what the movie is, unfortunately. The plot line concerns... Actually, I gotta give this movie a special little award. As far as I know, it is the only horror movie I've ever seen, if not the only movie I've ever seen, to open with a go-kart race. That shouldn't be notable, but like when you think about it, like, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that for the start of a movie. But it involves, there's some mystery killer going around slaughtering people, digging out their eyeballs. And the press suspects that the killer has been possessed to do this by a fascination with a comic book called, I think it's Dr. Death, or I think it's Dr. Death. So the press is coming after the publishing company and the writer, trying to convince them that they're corrupting the youth and inspiring violence and all that. So there's, detectives trying to track down the killer. Essentially, our main character is the female writer of the comics. And she's a pretty flat character. But thankfully her, the main detective, and like her editor are so crazy overacted on two fronts, because both the original Italian actors are going ham, and so are their dub actors. And so, like, all the best stuff in the movie is when they're just being crazy melodramatic about everything. But then, unfortunately, the movie will just kind of drag on and do nothing. Killer will show up, gouge out somebody's eyes, drama will continue, on and on. And it did really start to drag near the end. Because it's kind of weird. I started to zone out and lose track of it. They catch the killer, but like he's not the killer, or he's not the only killer. Like I said, I really sort of zoned out, because by that point it had just dissolved into nonsense. And then we spend like the last 20 minutes on a yacht. Some of the characters go on a yacht, and it just keeps going and going. Yeah, and it was not great, that's for sure. So yeah, it was a real stinker. I got some good giggles out of it, because like I said, it's a Bruno Mattei movie. You're always going to get those in there. But yeah, if you're a fan of his work, it's low hanging fruit for him. And yeah, there's just not much entertainment value to be had, and not really a whole lot of like interest or anything unique to be had. So it's just, yeah, nothing to write home about. So that was the stinker of the night, unfortunately, to end it on. But I'm glad I watched it, because even getting a couple giggles out of a Bruno flick, it's worthwhile, at least to me, because I don't got much else going on a Saturday. And so, yeah, God, I actually made it through all the movies for the week. I was a little afraid tonight's path wouldn't give us enough time. But yeah, that was the goods for tonight. To wrap up, Primate, decent, nothing incredible. Uninvited and Lady in White, all-timers. Madness from, 1994? I think I should note that, because I know there's other movies with that title. Absolute junk. And so, with that, I will leave you for the night. Well, at least for the week. I may start doing some extra episodes, at least next week, because I have a lot of time off from work at the moment, which is appreciated. And so, I hope you guys are all doing well. You know the rules. Hit the buttons if you like anything. Or even, I'm at the point now, if anybody who is watching wants me to watch specific movies, or review specific movies, start putting them in the comments. One, there's a good chance I've probably seen them, or own them. So, yeah, it's always a possibility, and it gives me more stuff to work with. So y'all have a good one. Bye.